will call the meeting to order. We are returning from closed session. I'd ask the city attorney to report, please.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. City Council is in closed session this evening on real property negotiations. There's a long list of properties on the agenda. All of these properties are in the vicinity of Highway 99 and Twin Cities Road, and the city is negotiating for the acquisition of certain portions of the property in relation to the Twin Cities Road roundabout project. Other than that item, there's nothing further to report from closed session.
Thank you. City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
I will. Councilmembers Powers? Here. Singleton?
Here.
Shelton?
Here.
Cruz? Here. Haynes?
Here. I would invite you to join me in a moment of silent prayer that will be followed by the flag salute by Troop 119.
Color guard attention. Please remove hats. Color guard advance. Color guard, post colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guard dismissed.
I think while we're all in kind of a celebrating mood, we'll recognize our city manager who's having a birthday today. And I think we should sing happy birthday to him. Yeah.
Recorded for posterity.
Okay. And will the audience please join us and sing out loudly? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jason. Happy birthday to you.
I'll get you back for that, Mayor.
Looking up when her
We didn't ask you how old you are, so that's a plus. Okay, we need the video statement.
This meeting of the Galt City Council is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the Government Affairs channel, on the Comcast and SureWest cable systems. Tonight's meeting can be seen on Channel 14 and will also be webcast at www.factmetrocable.tv this Friday and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Tonight's meeting can also be seen via live video streaming on the city's website at www.ci.galt.ca.us. A DVD copy is also available for checkout from any library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address council should fill out a speaker identification form and give it to the clerk. Please speak into the microphone when addressing council and state your name for the record.
So I would ask for agenda approval. Are there any additions or deletions?
Yes, we have Item number 4, single audit, finance director wanted to discuss that one, present them to the council when we get there. And I believe that's it.
Any other things? Any other additions or anything?
Mayor, I have one item I'd like to just pull when we get to the consent, just for discussion.
Which item would that be?
Okay. E6.
Ask a question. Rufus, is he out there?
Right here.
Oh, there you are. No, I'm not calling you up. Is your item on the consent calendar? I'm not sure. Okay. Public comment then. Thanks.
Okay, then we will go to presentation.
Okay, first is the Coalition of Character, and this month we have Integrity. And I believe, Mary?
Yeah. Is Eva here? I'm here. Okay, Eva, would you and our Mariah meet us at the podium down there, please? That's okay. Would you read your nomination statement?
I'd be more than happy to.
Okay, sure.
All right, you ready?
Okay.
Okay. Mariah Franco is an outstanding student, mentor, and leader in the Galt community and a true person of integrity. Mariah is a wonderful youth ministry participant at St. Christopher's Church in Galt. She also serves as an intern with the Galt's mayor since June 2011. Mariah excels at being reliable. She follows through on commitments and has the courage to do the right thing while building a good reputation. A junior at Galt High School, Mariah has many academic strengths. Also, she's a team leader and works well with others. She plays an important leadership role in Vacation Bible School and the Diocese of Sacramento Youth Convention. She was chosen to participate in the 2011 National Catholic Youth Conference in Indianapolis, Indiana. Mariah Franco is involved in social justice service projects and excels at motivating youth and children of all ages. Mariah's community social justice service projects have included preparing and serving meals to the homeless, collecting clothing, food, toys, and books, donating money, and delivering Thanksgiving baskets to needy people. Mariah has taken lead roles in church as a Eucharistic minister and altar server at St. Christopher Church. She takes charge and faces the toughest leadership challenges. She has a lot of confidence and enthusiasm in striving to be the best that she can be. She always takes the initiative to go beyond what is expected. She plans to attend college and become a medical doctor. Other achievements that additionally exemplify the character trait of integrity include being the student representative for Galt High School to the GJUHS board. She has also received awards for perfect school attendance and has achieved honor roll status consistently since the 9th grade. Mariah Franco has excellent leadership skills, and she is exceptionally reliable and a trustworthy person. She is a true person of integrity. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Stay up here. Okay, it is my honor to award Mariah this award, this recognition for integrity from the Galt Community of Character Coalition. And also, as my intern, I'm very proud of her. So this is yours. Let's turn around so Al can take a picture. Congratulations. Do you want to say anything?
I would like to thank you all for this award, and I greatly appreciate it.
Okay, the next presentation.
Next one is the Parks and Recreation Commission Annual Report.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to call up our 2011 Chair, Ben Gamez, and our current 2012 Chair, Brent Steele.
Welcome, it's good to see you tonight.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Payne, Vice Mayor Powers. Let me introduce myself. My name is Benjamin Gamez. I'm a Galt resident since 2002. I was appointed by Councilmember Shelton back in October 6, 2009. I became chairperson in February of 2011, and that's where all the fun began. We had the opportunity to go to the California Parks and Recreation Society annual conference in Sacramento. We had the opportunity to meet other commissioners from different cities throughout California. It was a great experience. We met with developers, some developers for Walker Park. We were able to talk to them and get more insight of the material that was going to be used for Walker Park. There, I had the privilege of meeting Barry Weiss, and I had a good conversation with him that day. In fact, he became my mentor, if you will. Prior to a Parks and Rec Commission meeting, we would meet, like a day or two prior to the meeting, just to go over the agenda, just to understand the ordinance. He would mentor me on what we would do in order to entertain a motion, or if the motion was dead right at the moment, what would we do? So he was very helpful in me being a chairperson, because I tried to do the best job that I could do as a chairperson. So as I said, the fun began. March 30th became a special meeting, and the agenda was basically light issues and park rental fees. Walker Park artificial turf rental. That was a big item because it became a big item on the agenda in the following months. Every month was Walker Park was in the agenda, and the commission members of the commission were very happy that the rentals basically were eliminated. Basically, if you were part of the Galt-based youth sports, you would have access to like Walker Park. You would pay like a $10 fee extra, and you would have access. Well, it was important for us to the commission and the Parks and Rec meet with the presidents of the Galt youth sports organizations here twice a year. They wanted to know what we would do with those extra $10, So we met with them twice already in 2011, and we let them know that those extra $10 would go to a separate account. Those $10 from each player would help replace light bulbs, replace locks, if you will. So that was a very good accomplishment, and I thank you for that. We were also part of the online program registration. We gave feedback, to the IT coordinator. That was very important. And that's getting out there in the community. Everybody's trying to go online. Everything is online now. All the kids have smartphones. You can actually go in there and look up information on the Galt City website. As me talking to the IT coordinator, I realized, and he shared with me, that he was swamped with work. So I took it upon myself, and I discussed this with the whole commission board, that I knew some individuals from Hill College, and we were able to provide 2 IT interns, free of cost for the city of Galt, and I believe they did a great job. Great job. We were also part of the Galt Youth Committee when they came and presented, and we were so impressed because they had so many projects on the horizon with a limited budget. I believe, I can't remember the amount, but I want to say $1,500.
That's right.
And that just, my daughter wants to join the youth committee. And because I was so excited, I went home and I told her, like, you know what, this is what they do. I want to be part of this. Like, okay, I'll get you in. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. In 2011, we continue to brainstorm on how to increase revenue for the city of Galt with Armando Solis. The baseball tournaments, I think it's a great idea to bring people to the Galt City, to our city, and to spend their money here. We're actually thinking and doing some soccer tournaments so we can emulate what Armando has done. We are moving forward in 2012. The Galt Youth Master Plan will be in the agenda going forward. We're coming up with the ideas. My daughter's giving me ideas. I told her that, like, you know what, I need your brain. I need for you to tell me as a teenager, what is it that you want here? So it was my pleasure to be chairperson. I will continue to be in the commission. And with that, I would like to present our newest chairperson of our committee.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. That was a wonderful report.
Thank you, Ben.
Hello, council members. My name is Brent Steele. I'm the new chairperson of this Parks and Rec Commission. I look forward to being on the commission. I've never been a chairperson before, so this will be a new adventure for me to learn how it goes, and I'm sure Ben will be able to help me out. He's done a wonderful job as chairperson. Armando, we found him with questions at every meeting, and he does a great job too, trying to answer our questions. We have a great group, and we don't mind talking, and we talk like crazy if you come to our meetings. So we look forward to moving forward this year. And what I like to look at is I think we look at the Parks and Recs. We want to make it as transparent and as inviting as possible. We want people to make it easy to come sign up online. We want people from out of town to come in, as he said, play softball, have tournaments, soccer, that sort of thing. They come in, they eat our restaurants, and they stay in our hotels, and we want people to go, hey, Galt, that's a great place to come play a soccer tournament or come do something. So that's what we're looking for. We would like, obviously in the new year, maybe some maintenance issues. We know we have persistent maintenance issues, sprinkler problems, and some of the, parks and that sort of thing. Hopefully, persistent problems. Hopefully, somebody in the new year we can find ways to slowly start to redo some of this instead of just putting Band-Aids on things. Maybe try to fix some of the problems that are persistent problems, that we've had in the past, and look for ways to obviously brainstorm and implement the youth master plan that was presented by the mayor to us. You guys are starting to do that. Mr. Moore brought up a couple meetings ago that he's thinking about, and everybody thought it was a good idea. We would like to implement, maybe start a soccer program for young adults, late teen young adults. We think there's a real need for that in Galt. We have the other sports, but we believe that if we ever start in conjunction with County Line, start a youth soccer program, we think that would be very good. And what we would like to do in the upcoming year is have more communication with the public. We would hope that the public and even city council too, but we'd love to have you come to our meetings, fill out a speaker sheet, and come express if you have a concern, if you have an idea, anything. We would love to hear it. We're there at the meeting, and we don't want to just come to the meeting and go through the motions and go home. We like to sit there and talk and brainstorm, and so we'd love to have you. So.
And when are your meetings?
They're the second Wednesday of the month.
Here.
Yeah, here. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was quite a great report. Sounds like you really have your work cut out for you, and I appreciate your enthusiasm. Are there any comments from our council members regarding the report?
Good job.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I think you guys are doing a great job.
And we hope you'll come back. We'll trade off. I'll come and see you, and you come and see me. How's that? Thank you so much. Okay, next.
The next presentation, McFarland Ranch Annual Report.
Have to say welcome to Jeannie Olson. It's so good to see you again. We don't see you enough.
Well, I'm going to get this down as close as I can so that people can hear me, because these are very strange mics, but they're directional mics, and you need to know that, and know that you got to talk right into them or you don't get heard. I'm Gene Olson, and I'm here tonight representing the Historical Society of Galt, and I am here to, first of all, say that it's always a pleasure to be back among my partners, because I always feel that when we're working on any project and we work together with the city, it becomes a partnership of real worth. And tonight I want to talk a little bit about McFarland. As you know, we have a very wonderful place called the McFarland Ranch that we're trying very hard to restore and to make ready eventually for many, many, many children to come and visit as a living history ranch. But before I say more about that, I want to go back into a little history. Way back in about 1987, as we were trying to put together a very small nonprofit organization, first thing we discovered was that, oh my goodness, we didn't have a place to put all the things that everybody wanted to give us to preserve. So we needed a place to put it. And we looked and looked and looked, and it just happened that I and a couple of other members were meeting with a couple of members of City Council on an ad hoc committee to discuss the history element of the master site plan of the city. And one of the people in the committee said, isn't it too bad that they're going to destroy the Ray House and get rid of it? And we all just kind of said, no, that can't happen. It was the Centennial House. It was the first house built in the city of Galt, as it was then known. And it just can't happen. We can't let this happen. And so the Save the Ray program began. And what happened was that for 3 years, the City Council and the Historical Society worked together as partners till we were able to make it possible to give to all the citizens of Galt a gift, a museum, which we celebrated 20 years of service just this past summer. Well, now we're back at the same kind of situation, where we're working together with you to give something very special to the citizens of Galt. We are currently trying to save the home and the portion of 3,800 acres of land and make it this wonderful place called a living history ranch, the McFarland Ranch. 6 years ago, when we were desperately trying to find ways to raise money to do, and we had no idea how we were going to do it, Softcom came to town and talked to the City of Council and asked permission to put a relay box up on the water tower. Since the Galt Area Historical Society had dedicated the tower as a local historic landmark, we were asked if we thought it was okay. And we said, sure. And they said, you know what? This is City Council now. You know what? They're going to pay rent. And we will pay a portion of that rent to you for the McFarland Ranch, and the rest of it we'll use for whatever we need in the city. And that sounded pretty good to us, and we agreed, and everything was fine, and the relay piece was put up, and it's been a very successful cooperative venture. And that is how we started getting $10,000 a year. We didn't come and ask for money from transportation or streets or whatever. It just came to us through this wonderful opportunity where the City Council, in its earnest attempt to preserve history, saw the value of doing it and giving it and helping us. This was the first year of 6 in which we had what they call a reimbursed grant. That means, for those of you who are looking at grants, and this is something I get all the time, you don't ever see the money. What you do is you pay the bill. And then you take a copy of the check that you made, a copy of the bill, and you send this into, and in this case, we did it with the city of Galt, and they in turn reimbursed us our expenses. It's a very safe way to go for the city, and we all liked it because we knew city had problems, and they were a little uncomfortable, a little worried about how to give out money to nonprofits, and we thought, well, this is wonderful. We feel comfortable with it, and we thought you folks would too. And so, again, a partnership was born. The council members asked that it be done every 4 years, that in every 4 years, or 5 years rather, we would stop and we would look at it and reassess and see if we needed to continue, and that each year we would present something that would be a report. And so part of my evening tonight is going to be a report, very briefly. I will get to it. In fact, I think I'm going to start now. We are currently serving over 5,000 children annually, and we have done no PR. It's been all word of mouth. Teachers have brought their children. They've said, wow, this is great. I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to let Mrs. So-and-so know about it and have her get her kids out here. So at the moment, that's what we have done without doing any other PR, and we won't go to full PR till we have everything that we can to offer the children. But right now, right at this very moment, there is no child, think about this, there is no child in the city of Galt who is a first grader who has not had at least one visit to McFarland. And why I say first grader, because kindergartners, some of them haven't gotten there yet, but from first grade to high school, there is not a child in the city of Galt who has not had the experience of McFarland. We have had such a wonderful turnout of the elementary school youngsters, and their teachers are so enthusiastic, and it just makes us so happy that we are able to do this wonderful thing. Once again, the City Council and the Historical Society have given a gift to the city. To every citizen in Galt, we have given a living history branch. And adults can enjoy it. You can have weddings out there. You can have family gatherings. You can have birthday parties. We've had a lot of them. You can have children out there at any time, or you can come to some of the events. Kite Day, which is so much fun. I get more fun watching the grandparents out there trying to fly the kites than the kids. Just everything that you could think of is offered to every single citizen in Galt, thanks to the cooperation and the partnership of the Historical Society in Galt. I am so proud of this. I can't say it enough, and it makes me think of why I am so proud of it. I go to a consortium meeting, and I see there all these different historical societies of all over Galt, or Sacramento County, and they're all saying to me, how do you get the city council to do anything? And I say, it's real easy. They listen when we speak. They listen. You people are rare, you're wonderful, and I can only say that when you get your report, which I'm about to see that each of you get, I would like you to look at two things: the variety of activities and the variety of ages in the people you see in the pictures. These are the children and the adults and the wonderful activities that McFarland is now giving. We're limited because we're not finished. When we get that barn built, we're going to be in great condition. But we are right now giving so much, as a gift to the city of Galt and all its citizens. And I'm very proud of that particular history that we have of giving to the community. Did you all get them? Oh, I thought you were giving them out.
Thanks, Ida.
You know, I'm going to mention something that I think is what makes us so unique, and oftentimes it's what makes it possible for us to get grants when others can't. We have no paid staff. Keep in mind, not one paid staff for the Historical Society's Living History Ranch. It's all done on volunteer. And we have no administrative costs. That's done by small fundraisers that this organization itself creates to make it happen. So when people look at us and say, well, you know, do we want to invest or not? These are two very crucial things that are very important for us to be able to say. And I wanted to share that with you tonight. And the very last thing, if I could, I'd like to applaud this wonderful city council, and I'd like everybody to join me.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jeannie, and this is wonderful. I wish I could share it with everybody out in the audience, but thank you very much. I will be glad to share it if you want to come and look at it. Okay. We're ready to move along. I think we're ready for public comments.
Okay, under Government Code, Section 54954.3, members of the public may address the council on non-agenda items. Speakers may address council on any agenda item during consideration of the item. Speakers shall restrict their comments to issues that are within the subject jurisdiction of the City Council and limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Please fill out a speaker sheet located on the table inside the entrances to the council chambers and forward the completed speaker sheet to the city clerk. And I should have addressed this earlier. As a courtesy to others, will everyone please silence your cell phones? Thank you. And first we have Reuben Epstein.
Good evening. I'm going to try to use my microphone as effectively as Jeannie could. I think she is a really good role model for all of us. For once, I could hear her. My comments tonight are about the resolution you passed dealing with the nonprofit fee changes for Littleton and Chaboya, Resolution 2012-07. I've gotten some confusing information about it. I thought what I read in the newspaper said in terms, first of all, what I meant to start with is thank you 5 times for doing this. It really does help nonprofits, and I belong to at least 2 of them. One of the things it says is limiting advance reservations to no earlier than 6 months in advance of the event. First, I thought it was you had to have it after 6 months. In any event, the comment there is this would make it okay for things like the Lions having a crab feed, and we have to reserve it a year ahead in order to get those dates. As I read this, that's not a problem. But if we have something, or any group has something come up, like we did in 1998 when a woman in Galt had her family murdered and we wanted to put on a dinner for her, that happened in July. We were able to get the dinner in October. That was less than 6 months. So we wouldn't have qualified at that time for getting Littleton at no cost. So my request with this is to eliminate any time, either early or late, for getting reservations. That would free it up for an annual event where you want to schedule it and keep it the same time every year, and for something that comes up as an emergency fundraiser like this dinner for a murder victim. So that could help. The other thing that I'm a little bit confused about is, flip the pages, in the body of this, it says organizations within the city limit of Galt. And I can't quite understand from the way it's worded under resident nonprofit, is that limited to organizations that are classified as 501c3? That's in the heading, but it's not said in the body of the words. And if you go down to non-resident, in the body of it, it does say 501c3. So I'm not clear who is covered there. Both organizations I belong to are 501c3, but I suspect some other people may be confused.
Your time's up. Thank you.
I think our city attorney wants to address Mr. Epstein.
Yes, Mayor, if I could, I think I can provide a brief answer to both those questions. First, as it relates to the resident nonprofit organization, in the resolution that the City Council adopted, it provided a definition for resident nonprofit organizations, and the Council did not restrict the definition to 501c3 corporations. I did note today, after you had come to the clerk's office, that in the fee and rental charge table that it does still have the reference to the 501c3, and that's just an administrative item that we need to clean up that table and make it consistent with the definition that the City Council has adopted. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. The second item on limiting advance reservations, that language is no earlier than 6 months. So the way it's currently worded, as it relates to, for example, the situation on raising funds for somebody that's a murder victim, that would be no earlier than 6 months. So that would be acceptable. As it relates to reserving it a year in advance, under this resolution, that would not be required. So I think in one situation there would be a problem under this resolution, but in the other there would not be.
I'm still confused.
Okay, limiting reservations to no earlier than 6 months. So that means a resolution can't be greater than 6 months before you have the event. And
Maybe Armando can address why that was done that way.
One of the reasons that we put the 6 months in advance, we still want to be able to, we still have to have it available for private functions, for other rentals that happen on a yearly basis. We have quite a few other organizations that use it and pay for it, and basically it's to keep an open spot should we have other events that we need to put on also. If we have nonprofits able to reserve it on a yearly basis, we would book up each hall almost every weekend.
Can I add something? If, as you know, Ruben is saying, if something happens and it is a last minute and there's something available to do something for a family in town, can you bring it back to the city council?
So that's allowed.
That's allowed.
That's allowed under the current policy. Something happens,
Oh.
you can do it. As long as it's available, you could do it. The only thing you can't do is reserve something a year in advance. The longest you could be allowed to reserve it is 6 months. And again, the reason it was done is because if somebody's getting it for free, we didn't want all the free rentals to take up all the space. So if a nonprofit wanted to secure something a year in advance, they can do that, but they would have to pay the nonprofit fee. If you want to get it for free, then you have to go within the 6 month window. That's what was presented to council, that's what was adopted.
Well, I'm still confused because it says no earlier than 6 months. And what you're telling me is it sounds like no later than 6 months.
I think it depends on how you look at the...
Well, if...
You can't do it earlier than 6 months.
6 months out.
6 months in advance of the event.
6 months is the maximum.
Yes.
But this says no earlier than 6 months.
Maybe
And 6 months is the minimum.
that's not the way I look at it or read it.
Maybe that's one of those administrative things that we can clarify what exactly it means
Sure.
in the word change, the wording or something, or clarify the explanation of what it means.
And we can give an example.
Yeah, because what I'm hearing is that you can't reserve it a year in advance.
Well, that's what I thought
Yeah.
I first read, but then I start looking at this, and it says, I can't reserve it for anything earlier than 6 months.
I think we're just going to clean up the
That's why I'm
word.
confused.
Is that it? I think we can take care of that. You're welcome. Thanks, Reuben.
That's all I have right now.
Okay, then would you like to read the consent calendar?
I can.
Please.
We have 9 items tonight. Our first one, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of March 6, 2012. Number 2, approval of the City of Galt warrants. Number 3, authorize the city manager to execute contract amendment number 3 to the agreement with Stantec for engineering construction support services and construction management services for the Golden Heights Water Treatment Plant Expansion Phase 3 project in the amount of $5,000 and approving project contingency. Number 4, which will be pulled, and discussed tonight, the single audit report fiscal year ended June 30, 2011. Number 5, Independence Day celebration fireworks. Number 6, which was pulled, regarding fireworks permits. Number 7, Central Valley Information Sharing System MOU amendments. Number 8, changes to job titles for recently approved part-time positions at the Galt Market. And number 9, approval of the treasurer's report for the period ending January 2012.
Okay. Shall we go back to item number 4 at this point?
Sure. We'll turn it over to our finance director, Inez.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and community members. I did want to make a change in the staff report for the single audit. Staff is recommending that the council accept the single audit report for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2011. But the attachment actually includes letters from the auditors, Mays and Associates, but they were not signed. The documents actually came after the fact, after we had submitted the information to the city clerk's office, and there were no changes in the report. The letter as presented by the auditing firm are correct. However, they were still unsigned at that time, and we want to be sure that the official record for the city includes signed letters from the auditors, which include their independent auditor's report on internal controls and the independent auditor's report on compliance issues. So I did want to make that change. What you have in your packet is a review discussion draft, and it should be replaced with the actual signed version of the document. If you would like me to just give a quick, brief staff report, I could certainly do that, but I did want to bring that item to your attention.
Council, any questions or comments on this item? No? I just think it's important, Inez, that you make it really clear that what the audit basically covered and that we had a good audit.
Okay, let me go ahead and just, you want me to just go ahead and just include that then real quick? Okay, well, just as way of background, we actually present the financial statements to the city as a matter of public record, and the single audit is typically included within our financial reports which were accepted by council at the December 6th meeting of 2011. The single audit report does go into certain additional steps and procedures for funds that we receive from either the federal government and or state government. That report was not completed by the December deadline, so we decided to go ahead and hold it off, and then we're presenting that this evening. The single audit actually presents all the activity, as just stated, for federal awards programs. We also, once accepted by the council, will go ahead and submit to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse as well as the State Controller's Office. They're the actual oversight agency for various grants. There were no comments in the current fiscal year by the auditors. There were no findings in the prior fiscal year either, so I'm pleased to report that. But we did receive 2 of the large grants that we did receive. The first one was RSTP, basically traffic-related funds, and the second was FTA funds, which we received in conjunction with the City of Lodi. So those are the 2 major funds that we did receive, the grant funds. There were no items of compliance or internal controls presented within the report, but I did want as an official record that we have the signed versions from the auditors instead of just the review or discussion draft. So with that, I would ask that you accept the single audit report this evening, or if you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to address those as well.
Are there any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Powers?
Aye.
Councilmember Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Inez. Then let's go to item number 6. I think Councilman Shelton pulled that one.
Yeah, I pulled that out. Basically, I'm in support of it, but it was for more of discussion than anything else. I believe, Liz, you actually run the program, but I believe we have 6 to 7 at the site presently for the last, 12 years. Is that about right?
We've had 7 as long as I can remember.
Okay. And then what we're doing is, and from what I understand, I just want to point out to the public so that they understand that we're reducing the numbers to 4.
Correct. What's on the agenda tonight is to reduce the number of stands to 4.
Okay.
The city has been approached by nonprofits. I've spoken with Red Devil Promotions. I'm sorry if I got the name wrong. I've also, I'll talk about another modification, but with the added stands out in the county and the fireworks sales in Stockton and Lodi, revenues have progressively gone down quite a bit over the years. So we looked at reducing the number. Sally and I talked quite a bit, came up with 4, rented by quite a few nonprofits, not all of them, but I did have some phone calls today, and people seemed very happy with 4 because of the labor that is involved in the fireworks stands. Another modification was on the prior resolution. The fire chief gave permission for the number of stands each year. That was removed because we have a set number at 4, and the fire chief's in the audience as well. We played a lot of phone tag, but we did discuss it a little while back. So that's a brief report.
Yeah, so briefly, we have concurrence with TNT Red Devil Fireworks and with the local fire department, CSD. Thank you both. This will actually, in my opinion, as a safety person, make that whole area safer because it's very busy anyway, and we're selling safe and sane fireworks, and we're doing our public display just a little ways away, and I think it'll be either easier for controlling with reduction. It's going to make a lot safer. I don't have anything else other than I recommend that we do approve the adoption of the resolution as submitted. Thank you very much.
So that's a motion?
Yes, that is a motion.
So we have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Powers? Aye. Councilmember Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Motion is passed unanimously. I would entertain a motion on the rest of the consent calendar.
Second.
The motion was made by Vice Mayor Powers, and it was seconded by Councilman Singleton. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Powers? Aye. Councilmember Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Consent calendar is passed unanimously. Next item, please.
Okay, then we go to our regular calendar, the City Council office. First is strategic plan.
I periodically give a report on our goals that we met and discussed earlier, just to let you know that we are making progress. Our goals are 3-year goals, and they include enhanced economic development, improve financial stability and maintenance of reserves, and engage the community and provide services and facilities responsive to community needs. The first goal is enhanced economic development. I'm going to just report back on item number 1, which is ensure completion of environmental and infrastructure studies to prepare the Simmerhorn commercial property for development. We'd like to report back that planning staff has discussed the information with a new broker on the property, and they've had several calls of interest. Did you want to add anything new to that, Sandy?
I met with the broker on Friday, actually, and he thinks he has a developer under contract, and it is a viable developer, so.
Would you say that again? That's so
Yeah.
Thanks, Sandy. Sure. Okay, let's see, what's the next one we have up there? What is that? Financial stability. And that is item number 1, develop and distribute an RFP for a comprehensive fee study with the cost of the consultant to be included in the 2012-2013 budget. So it looks like we are on target, and we've had meetings with proposers on March 6th. Is that correct?
That is correct. We actually met with 3 of the proposers, and we feel confident that we have an agreement or agreed upon understanding, and we'll be including that in the upcoming budget process. So I feel good about the proposer that was at that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
The committee actually reviewed 3 of them, so I think that recommendation is strongly supported.
Okay, next is engage the community and provide services and facilities responsive to community needs. We're going to look at item number 1. Open to the general public the artificial turf field at Walker Park on Sundays unless otherwise reserved. And we did hear from our Parks and Rec Commission that Walker Park is a big part of their agenda. So, okay, the other item is number 4. Promote the new South County Transit Link Bus program and new commuter service. I am really happy to report on that one. We are going to have a commuter bus. It's going to be called the Galt Sacramento Express, and it's going to be a luxury bus with Wi-Fi. So you can catch the bus in Galt and go directly downtown of Sacramento. So hopefully that's going to help all of you that don't like spending nearly $5 a gallon for your gasoline. It's going to help, of course, with pollution in the air. It's we believe we're going to have it on display at our bike rodeo, which will be May the 12th, for all the residents in the area to take a look at, see how comfortable it is, and we hope we'll have a lot of riders. Another part of that is we have a new route that's been established that will take our students. If they go to Consumnes College, they can catch the bus here in Galt and go directly to Consumnes without having to transfer. Also along the way, there will be access to the medical facilities. I think Kaiser are some of the facilities along the way. So we think this is going to be a big improvement in our routes. And we're actually pushed to the point where we have to have an improvement if we want to keep our bus service. So we're going to really promote this and ask the citizens to give us a try. Is that it? That's it. Okay. The next item. Okay.
Next item, commissions and committee recruitment and retention.
Yes, good evening. Actually, this commissions committee recruitment retention, I would like to refer to Councilman Shelton.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I was out coughing and hacking at that time.
Yes.
Pneumonia's not fun. Anyway, on this commission and committee recruitments, first of all, I want to thank all and any of you that have volunteered, and any of you that have been on as a commissioner or as one of our committee members. I mean, it is a milestone. What I'd like to do is just discuss with you briefly. We've had a turnover about the last 3 years with people volunteering, and it's not just the city. Everyone's having, you know, problems with some of us who've been volunteering for like 25 years, and we're just getting tired. And so with this retention, what my intention is to do is to educate and train and try to, there's some nice articles that are out, believe it or not, from the fire service, and it talks about volunteers. Just change that name from firefighter to someone volunteering for whatever group or organization. So I'm hoping that you'll agree with me that, you know, we've had one of our committees just recently where we've had, for various reasons, we've had 3 people that had to drop out. And that's pretty significant when we have 5 and, you know, there's an alternate, but I mean, you know, we don't have an alternate because it's very difficult to go forward to do what we need to do. So one of the things that we've discussed, actually, Council, if you remember some time ago in our strategic planning, we talked about conveying information for council members and the volunteers on committees and commissioners to work together. What is it that we're lacking to give to the volunteers? So like, kind of like, what is your responsibility? Are you willing to step forward, do the monthly meeting, or do whatever? I think it's very important for us to convey that information back. So what I'd like to do is have one of the other council members meet with me and at least the city manager to discuss some things and then bring it forward and offer even up, you know, some kind of informational sheet. I just feel that not just the city, but a lot of organizations, we're losing our volunteers. I think it's important for us to do that.
I'd like to volunteer for that if you're looking for one of us here.
Oh, good. I had Mike written down here. No.
Yeah, okay.
If you agree, I mean, no decision would be made. I mean, at a minimum, I would say with the city manager and whatever appropriate staff, and we could come back maybe in a month or something.
Let me ask our city attorney, is that something that we need to agendize, take formal
Let me
action
ask
on?
you. That's my intent, so how do I go about getting it?
Well, if the council wants to formally form an ad hoc committee to look at this particular issue, then we'd have to place it on the next agenda to form that ad hoc committee. But if you wanted to handle it a little bit less formal, if one other council member was willing to just meet with Councilmember Shelton and the city manager and just bring back a collective recommendation, they could just do that without going through the process of actually forming the ad hoc committee, which I think seems to be more in line with what Councilmember Shelton is looking to do. It's just maybe one or two informal meetings with another council member and the manager and see if they can develop a recommendation or two.
And I believe at that time when we would come back, if it's the decision of council and through our city attorney that no, what you really need, what you're talking about and what you're wanting to do is 2 different things. You know, maybe we better move to an ad hoc committee. At this point, I don't believe we do. It's more of getting together and providing information and then feeding that to the public. And not only that, taking this all the way back over to our present committee members and saying, hey, this is what we're talking about, what we want you to do. And we're not saying it so that to scare you and say, hey, we don't want you to be, you know, a volunteer anymore. It's more of the communications that we've done. In fact, Mayor, I think you were the one that brought that up in the strategic planning. Yeah, it's in our
Yeah.
some time ago.
Okay, but I think we have Councilman Singleton that would love to meet with you and work
Very
on
good. Sure.
some progress. So if that
He owes
suits
me
you,
lunch
we'll
anyway. No.
I do.
just let him buy your lunch and you guys can talk about it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Councilman Shelton.
Thank you.
Great idea.
Thanks.
Next item, please.
Okay, abusive solicitation ordinance.
Yes, good evening again. I asked for this to come back. I'm not sure if everybody's aware of our ordinance on abusive solicitation, so I'm going to read it real quick, just a brief summary of what the city sees as abusive solicitation. The city of Galt finds that aggressive or abusive solicitation is disturbing and disruptive to residents and businesses and contributes to a loss of access to and enjoyment of public places and creates a sense of fear and intimidation. As many of you may or may not have noticed on this side of town and the other side of town, because it's happened to me on both sides, trying to go into a store, be it Rayleigh's, the dollar store, Save Mart, some of the restaurants on both sides I'm always getting hit up, somebody trying to ask me for money. We have this ordinance to prevent this kind of thing, and I know that I have statistics, but I left them in my office, that some of these are over at Farmers and Merchant Bank, which is against our ordinance. So I'm looking to strengthen these ordinances to prevent this from happening. You guys should not be, myself should not be harassed when going into a store or be intimidated to the point of giving money so you can get passage to a store. Our own city manager has also had it happen to him on the other side of town, and this person came up and knocked on his window, asked him to give him some money. With that, I want to refer this to our city attorney, as we've come up, I think, with a couple of ways to strengthen our ordinance a little bit.
Thank you, Councilmember. Just by way of additional background, the City Council adopted the abusive solicitation ordinance back in February of 2011. And at the time that we adopted that ordinance, the main problem that we were trying to address was solicitation for funds at the Galt market. And so when we put this ordinance together, we looked to focus on two types of conduct. First of all, abusive solicitation is defined in this ordinance as any kind of physically intimidating action. So things like blocking people from where they walk, if they decline to give you money, from walking alongside them, certainly touching them. And that type of conduct is unlawful anywhere it occurs within the city under this ordinance. The other thing that we did in the existing ordinance is whenever residents or citizens are in situations where their safety is compromised or they're kind of a captive audience, things like when you're at ATM machines getting money out, when you're in a public parking lot, when you're on a public bus and you can't get off. So we defined that asking for money in those types of locations was also abusive solicitation. Whether you were being threatening or not, you couldn't ask for money, for example, within 30 feet of an ATM. The type of conduct that Councilmember Singleton is talking about tonight is people asking for money on private property, in front of businesses, and on property that's owned by individuals and corporations. So one of the options for the City Council is to strengthen this ordinance to include that locations where you cannot solicit for funds would be in a business if the business owner or operator asked the person not to solicit or has posted a sign on their property stating that solicitations are not allowed on the property. So if the City Council desires to extend the scope of your existing ordinance to cover private property where the business owner has said, don't do it here, you need to leave, or has posted a sign saying you cannot solicit on this property within that private parking lot, in front of businesses, within restaurants, then that type of change to this ordinance would cover that type of conduct. So I think the goal tonight was to get some feedback from council relating to whether or not this type of amendment was of interest to the City Council. If it is of interest to the council, then my recommendation would be that you direct me to bring back at a future meeting an amendment to this ordinance to include that revision.
Okay. Do the council members have any feelings on this?
I do.
Okay, Councilman Shelton.
Thanks, Mike, for bringing this forward. I know that I think what we'll do is, in fact, I may have overstepped my bounds a little bit, but I put this on our safety committee meeting that we meet on Monday. So I think that would be a good opportunity, especially this one document. We get information from the committee members on the safety committee and move forward with this. In fact, this, if we end up adopting this, fits right into, I'm gonna go back to this plan again, okay? I've been sick, but I've been memorizing it. No, it fits right in what we said we were going to do. Let me just take a moment here. It's, that the Safety Committee would, actually, hold 2 Public Safety Advisory Committee educational forums to coordinate and communicate information to the community on issues such as crime, emergency preparedness, improving their neighborhood and businesses. I think this fits right into it. And I believe that we could have that brief discussion and maybe down the road even have, I know you're doing one with the businesses or through the chamber, and maybe have an open forum, you know, a public meeting or something.
Absolutely.
Even if we do, once we get this approved, and I feel very comfortable that we might in the near future, but I think that fits into what we're talking about. So,
Thank you.
I'm with you. Thanks.
And I would also like to share in several of the letters that I got from the students at Galt High School that said if they were mayor, what would they do? That was brought up by the students, that they didn't like this type of thing going on in their community. So I guess what I'm hearing, Councilman Shelton and Councilman Singleton, is you want to discuss it in your safety committee and bring back suggestions or make a plan for a public meeting?
Sorry.
Go.
I think well, you brought it up, but do you want me to say it or do you want to say it? Because I think we can do both.
Right.
We can parallel with moving through with the safety committee. Mike has something coming up next week.
Right.
It works out, it's the day after. But I think also if council, if we want to, we could direct the attorney to move forward with something too.
Okay.
I mean, it's your desire. If you want to wait or you want to do it together, we could do it that way, can we, Steve?
Councilman Singleton?
That's my recommendation.
Sounds good to me.
Anything else you want to say? Sorry, Mike.
No, you took it all out of me. Thank you.
Do I need to make
You're
that
feeling
into a
better. That's
motion or
good.
just a direction?
So I think, are we asking the council then to give you direction to pursue this?
Right, so I think the council direction, which would be in the form of a motion to direct the city attorney to bring back an amendment to the abusive solicitation ordinance to restrict abusive solicitation on private property when the owner of that property asks the person not to solicit or posts a sign prohibiting that conduct.
Okay.
Okay, you've heard the recommended action. Is there a motion?
I'll make such a motion.
Okay.
Motion, and I'll second it.
And a second. Roll call vote, please. Oh, did you want to say
I was
something?
just is your intent to discuss this with the safety committee? So you may want to just amend the motion to any additional changes that might come out of the safety committee meeting or the meeting with the businesses would also be then directed to the city attorney to make.
Get that information back to the
Most
city.
certainly, because I'm sure that we're going to have some feedback from the businesses and maybe some good recommendations from the businesses.
Sure.
So that might be appropriate.
Okay.
So,
And we're not including selling Girl Scout cookies, are we?
no, they have permission.
Okay, all
They
right.
have permission.
Wanted to be clear on that. Okay, so we have an amended motion, right?
Yes, we
You
did.
accept
Mayor.
that in
Yes.
second?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're ready for the vote.
Okay, Vice Mayor Powers.
Aye.
Councilmember Singleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz.
Aye.
Mayor Payne.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Next item, please.
Approval of using discretionary funds.
That would be me again.
And me.
Oh, and you?
And me.
Oh. Was it me this time first?
Go ahead.
As you had mentioned, was it me first? I didn't.
You can go.
Oh, that would be me. As Councilmember Sheldon had mentioned, next Tuesday at noon at the Galt PD, I'm going to be holding a luncheon, and Chief Bowen will be there. Our city attorney, Steve Rudolph, will be there, and I've invited several businesses, and we're still in the process of inviting several businesses there, and I'd like to serve them lunch. So I'd like to ask the council if they would approve for me to use $300 of my discretionary funds to provide for that luncheon. I'll make such a motion, unless you have questions.
We don't think we need a motion. Can't we just give him our consent?
We don't know.
Oh, I think that's, by
The motion
Yep.
to use this discretionary fund?
Right. As requested.
Okay. You,
I move.
I made the motion.
you made the motion, then a second. We have a second? Call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Powers?
Aye.
Councilmember Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Motion is passed unanimously. Next item, please.
Oh, wait, I think,
Oh, you want to say something?
yeah, discretionary funds
Okay.
for me too.
Sorry?
I was a little ashamed of myself last week when the, Commission on Adult and Aging came up here, and they came up here and sort of said that they needed some funding for the things they've done, and I've been to quite a few of their meetings, and they are real advocates for the seniors in this city, and they've helped with some issues that have really been trying and really, debilitating almost to some of the seniors. And they're having a problem because they don't have funding for just a few of the things that they need to do for, bulletins or whatever, just to go into some of these senior complexes and talk with the people. So I'd like to donate $200 of my money for them for the end of the year till the end of June to help funding with some of the things they need to get done. So I move to give $200 to the Commission on Adult and Aging
Of your
No.
discretionary
of
fund?
my discretionary fund.
Okay,
I'll second that.
and we have a second. All right, call for the vote.
Okay, Vice Mayor Powers?
Aye.
Councilmember Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye, motion is passed unanimously. Now, next item.
And next item, the Community Event Sign Policy and Procedures.
Good evening again, Mayor and council members. Before I talk about the actual specifics of the policy, I want to just spend a moment to explain why it is that the city would need such a policy. Because after all, what we're really talking about is right now, I think we have three sign locations, and with the installation of a sign at City Hall, Civic Drive and C, and then Smud Park, we'll be up to 5 signs. So what's the big deal about having a policy for utilizing 5 signs? And the reason for the policy is that when we get into any area dealing with free speech, and speech is not just talking, but it's things like putting up signs, the citizens, through the First Amendment of the Constitution, have a high degree of protection on their ability to provide speech, to hand out public documents, to put up signs. And there's been just a whole host of court cases relating to situations where cities regulate or control how people go about utilizing their right to free speech, whether it's on private property, which we regulate through things like our sign ordinance, or when they are exercising their right to speak on city property. When we're talking about situations where the government is the owner of the property, as we would be with these signs, the degree of protection that people in the community have relating to their speech depends upon the location where the speech is occurring. And what the courts have done is they've divided it into basically 3 groups. And there's certain types of government property where it's very difficult for the city to regulate that speech. You need to show a very, very high interest. And the first category are things like parks and streets and malls. Because when you think back to the early days of, things like the Constitution being formed and the Revolution, where did everybody gather and talk? It was in places like the streets and the parks. And so it's very, the courts are very restrictive on cities' ability to regulate what they call traditional forums. Well, there's some government property where you can never have a right to put up signs. Well, government property like city trucks, you're not allowed to post signs on city trucks, and utility poles, notwithstanding the fact that everybody does it, they don't necessarily have a right to put signs on utility poles. So then you get to the last category, which are what's called limited public forums, and that's what these signs would be. And what the courts have said about limited public forums is that cities have the right to establish signs and to set up what the rules will be for the use of the signs. So, if we put these signs up, but we do not establish any rules for their use, there's a risk that over time, the signs would be used in a way, by just practice, in ways that the council had not contemplated. It might be things like putting up political advertising. It might be things like commercial advertising. And once you start that pattern, it's very hard to then say, hey, wait a minute, that's not what we intended. I've worked in different communities before where they have not had policies and they've been subjected to certain types of practices, and their only remedy was to cut the signs down. So before we got to that scenario, what my recommendation was is that the council consider a policy and decide how you want those signs to be utilized. The policy before you tonight divides the signs into basically two categories. First, 3 signs are defined as message signs, and the other 2 are defined as event signs. The message signs would be to provide information to residents by allowing the city and other local governments, so government entities only, to promote community events, community activities and upcoming events that benefit the community and residents. The event signs would be to provide information to residents by allowing local government agencies, local nonprofit organizations, civic groups, churches, the opportunity to promote community activities and events. Very specifically, this policy would prohibit any political messages, any commercial messages, any religious messages, no advertising for private parties such as weddings. So really just focus to the groups defined and only to for the purpose of letting the community know about events. So that's the goal of the policy. I developed this in concert with Armando. Armando, I don't know if you have anything in addition that you want to add that I forgot to mention. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that council has.
Questions? Anybody? No? No questions? I wasn't sure if it was clear that the community message signs are the marquee type of signs that we have currently at Community Park, and we're adding 2 more, versus the community event signs are the ones that the nonprofits can make their own sign, and the Parks and Rec has put them up. There's a frame at, what is that, Lincoln Way? And
we have one at Lincoln and Cibola, and the second is at Carillion and Twin Cities.
Mm-hmm. And I think the one at Lincoln and Cibola already has a sign up advertising some church events. Mm-hmm. So that's a good example of what is allowed.
So the front part of the policy identifies that the message signs are at Galt Community Park at Walnut Avenue and Carillion, City Hall, Civic Drive, and C Street, which is to be installed, and then Smud Park at Lincoln Way and A Street to be installed. So those are the message signs as defined, and then the event signs are at the locations that Armando just mentioned. One other change to the policy that was in your packet, there was a sentence left out under rules for use of the signs under number 1. And that sentence is that requests for the local school district shall only be for district-wide events, not individual school events, and must be authorized by the district superintendent. And so this was intended to ensure that we didn't get inundated by the numerous events that are held by individual schools, but we're just advertising events from a district-wide basis. So that revised policy was distributed to the council this evening.
Okay. Okay, so the recommended action is to adopt the resolution. Is there a motion, or is there more discussion that needs to be discussed?
I make a motion to accept.
Have a motion? We have a second. Is there any discussion? Then I would call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Powers? Aye. Councilmember Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Motion is passed unanimously. Next item, please.
Next item, nonprofit funding.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. At the last City Council meeting, Vice Mayor Powers, requested and the Council directed staff to return with a nonprofit funding policy for the Council's consideration. Historically, the city's provided profits, or let me start over. The city's provided funding to nonprofits on a case-by-case basis. As requests have come in, the council has considered those requests and then either granted or denied those requests. Historically, funding has been approved for groups such as the Boys and Girls Club, Historical Society, as was presented this evening, South County Services, and there may have been others over the years. Those are some of the more recent examples. There has not been a defined process that nonprofits need to go through, nor an application, and the request was for staff to take a look to see what other cities did and bring back a proposed policy for the council's consideration, which is what is being presented to you this evening. The proposed policy is to provide a standardized, fair, equitable way of the council making decisions about where its limited funding would go towards nonprofits within the Galt community. Through this process, which I'll outline in a second, the City Council, through the budget process, would be able to allocate and decide how best to spend those funds and which nonprofit organizations had the most worthwhile projects in any given year. And it may change from year to year, and the funding amounts might change from year to year depending on the financial condition of the city and so forth. Some of the requirements and the major points of the policy that we're recommending I'll outline for the council as well as the public. The funding would only be provided to nonprofit organizations, local nonprofit organizations, 501c3s, that are providing services to local residents and or businesses. The funding would be for a specific program or project, would not be considered for ongoing operating expenses, so the group would have to designate where that funding was going to be spent. A formal funding application would be required to be filled out, which would designate how the agency would use the provided funding to meet an unmet need in the community, how the proposed project or program would serve and benefit the Galt residents and or businesses, how the funding would benefit a large cross-section of the community as opposed to a small special interest. The group would also have to identify how the nonprofit has a sustainable source of funding other than the city funds that it's providing. Also would need to provide and demonstrate long-term impact and quality outcome of the use of those funds. Staff has attached the proposed policy as well as a nonprofit funding application form that provides further details, but that's kind of the summary of the main points. At the end of the year, the groups that were provided funding would be required to return to the City Council and provide an annual report on how the funds were spent to benefit to the community by providing those funds. If that was not provided, then they would not be eligible for subsequent year funding. Due to the current economic conditions that we face, staff is recommending an annual funding limit be set in the coming year of $10,000, which equals the current year contribution for nonprofit organizations. In the current year, we only have one group that's being funded, and that is the Historical Society in the amount of $10,000. And this funding limit could be revised in future years and could be set by the council on an annual basis through the budgeting process. And the council could determine, based on the applications it received, how to spend that, how to fund those nonprofit agencies. For example, you could decide to put all $10,000 into one organization, divide it equally. If you get 5 applications, you could put $2,000 towards each group, or decide in any manner how those funds could be divided based on the merits of the application that was submitted for the council, and potentially the amount of funding that's been provided in previous years. That would be up to the council. That would be decided through the budget process, likely in May of each year. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
Question?
I don't have any questions, but I think that you did a really good job on this. I think that all the points that you wrote down here as someone who writes grants all the time, this is just, I think, really important. I think it was important that we open it up to everyone in the community, and, you know, who knows, maybe one person will apply, we don't know, but I just think it's fair to be fair to everybody in our town.
One thing I did want to mention, the city clerk did a bulk of this work. She went out and did the research on finding what other city policies were. I think kind of combined the best of all these things. So I definitely wanted to acknowledge her effort, work in putting this together with me.
The city clerk has shown me that we have a speaker sheet here from Mr. Baldwin, if you'd like to come up before we continue with the council comments.
Well, thank you. Happy birthday, Jason. 32 looks good on you. Al Baldwin, I'm a citizen of Galt and a member of the Character Coalition, and it's reflected in Galt because there's been a lot of great character being developed in Galt right now. Right now, I want to give some questions, information, suggestions on this particular resolution. A nonprofit shall have been organized and established for a minimum of 1 year, continuously preceding the filing of an application. It's a bit hard to even get a 501c3 together sometimes in 1 year, and maybe they've been working on it for 6 months and maybe a year, and they still haven't gotten it because of certain things they need to do. I would suggest to go with 3 years as a minimum, because it's going to take a while for a nonprofit to get organized. I also think 1 year is not enough time to get fully established. They must get volunteers, officers possibly, the president, a lot of things. In 1 year, it's going to take them more than 1 year, and that's another thing. They've got to elect people that are in charge and even find a principal meeting place. And that's another qualification that you have to have. So even finding a meeting place has been a real challenge for some of the nonprofits. I go to a few of them, quite a few of them, and they can't meet in the same place all the time. So that might be a challenge. Time to get a group of volunteers for fundraisers is another one. And the bills have to be paid after you get your money and show that you've done something with it, and it has to be issued from the city. If you have multiple nonprofits, it's going to be a burden on the city to keep giving a lot of this out all the time. But then again, you know, it's for a good cause. My thoughts are, have a nonprofits come to the council and ask for help, and let the council decide what to do with it. This has worked in the past. It works very well, as a matter of fact. We're still a small town, we're a small city, and this resolution is a bit of an overkill for a small town like this. Larger towns, larger populations, larger nonprofits, sure, I can see a little competition going on and going through, but we're so small. Nonprofits can come and ask. They've done it in the past and it worked. Mary Lou Powers can still vote for this, even if she can't apply for any funds because she's connected to a nonprofit. Mike Singleton might be questioned about voting or not voting. They understand they won't get any funds from this group if they do vote. So, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. But that's basically it. If you have any questions or you'd like to ask me something real quick, I'll be more than happy to answer it with you. If not, I made my statement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, just so you know, Al, we're not going to be applying. I said our organization will not be applying.
Okay, any comments?
Do we have any other speakers?
No, that's the only speaker on this item, I believe. Unless someone wants to come up now. Ms. Olson?
I'd like to hear from anyone else before I make.
All right. Glad to do that.
It seems wrong of me to be up here, but nonetheless, I want to say something. What you're trying to do is to prevent from happening what has happened in the past, where you dumped thousands of dollars into a program without really good handle on where that money was going. And so, looking at it from that point of view, I would say there were some specific things that you need to put into this idea. I approve and certainly applaud you for doing this, but one, I think you need to have a fund that you set aside for this. A specific fund that you know is going to be where the money is going to come out of for these grants that you're going to give. Number two, you need a grant process. You need specific grant process where they have to apply by showing a certain amount of time where they have been successful in running an organization, where they have a goal and how they're going to achieve that goal. Number three, you certainly don't want to hand them the money. You want to do what you've done with us, which has been wonderful. You do it all through reimbursement, where that way you know at all times. I mean, you could go right now to the city manager's office, I think, and you will find a copy of every single check we have written with the money you have given us. You will find all the bills. You will find the sheet that goes with it, time after time after time. I know because I'm the one who puts it all together. So I know that this is done that way. I feel good about it because I know that we are being held responsible. And I think this is going to be very important as you're going along with this. I am going to throw in my own concern here. My concern is that the $10,000 that we have been given was given as a kind of a promise that as long as we did it right, it was there, but we had to show we were doing it right. Now, if that $10,000 is being taken away from us to do this, yes, I resent it, because that's not fair. But if there's a way that you can come up with $10,000 over and above, more power to you. And I certainly applaud you for being much more accountable.
Okay.
I have something now, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, first of all, currently the way it is, I'm not interested in changing the funding process for the funds we have. Let's go back, just kind of a memory. And this money was set aside, I think Jeannie may have already said it, but I'll just, what I've written down here. It was first started by Darrell, Claire, myself. Now you can kind of help me. I think, Barbara, you were on council, and I think it was Tom Moslin, and we all discussed it because of the other issues that we had with some other organizations. And it was, and it may be in the minutes someplace, that as long as we have the funding that you were doing, what the city manager is requesting, you know, what your policy is, what the project is, you're getting the receipts, is there a better way to communicate and get more information? You know, there's always changes that we can do that can help us. You know, my purpose is preserving the past and protecting our future. And now, help me out, city manager. Is there anything that we could do to change this, just on this current one? And I just want you to think about it. Not a rhetorical statement, okay? Don't mean to put you or anyone else really on the spot. But what I would like to do is one of two things. One, I would like the council to consider, please, joining me in leaving this funding the way it is, okay? But if there's any future funds, like in kind, like we have with this, and it could be in the future we may have something, then I'm interested in setting up and discussing a policy. To me right now, this is like real late in the game, and it wouldn't have mattered even if we would have probably been discussing it in August or July. But it's just that we've set this policy. If we were having issues like we've had with one other organization, you know, and I wasn't for that, you know, I'll admit it. It was a leap of faith, and I made a mistake, and I regret it to this day. With that said, that's what I would like for you to consider. But certainly, we get some other funding. I guess my issue is, you know, This money, part of you could say it's taxpayer money, but the other part is, I look at it, and that was the intent in doing this some years back, to the Historical Society is partnering up with them. I mean, it's like, it's a pass-through funding. I mean, the SOFCOM is on the water tower, that property is where the Historical Society's meeting room is, correct? Yeah. So I mean, yeah, adjacent to it. I mean, it's kind of like right there, but it is, but it isn't, so that's my piece on it. But if, like I said, I'll just restate, in the future, if we have some funding that comes up, I know other agencies are coming up with this, with, other towers and such, and I know some cities that we're looking at that. What should we do with this funding? It's $12,000, it's $10,000. Maybe we ought to look at a policy.
So the proposal would be to leave the 10,000 in place as it currently is, and if there's additional monies available, that would follow on this kind of a policy.
Yes.
Well, I would like to really know if there was, and this is nothing personal to anybody, was there a memorandum of understanding with that?
My recollection is that originally there was a 5-year agreement that was signed between the city and the Historical Society, and Jeannie, I can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, and that ever since then, the last, I think, year, maybe 2 years, we've done 1-year agreements with them. So I think this is the second year where we've had annual agreements with them. So there's nothing that commits the city legally to provide the funding in future years.
And we don't really foresee that there's going to be some other big funding of money that we can give to other groups farther down the line, right?
It's all going to depend on the budget, and as we renegotiate lease contracts, cell phone providers, those types of things, there may be additional funding that would be available. Certainly, that's a discretionary item and decision of the council as you weigh a lot of budgetary decisions and where we as a city can spend our money. One of the decisions is whether we put money into funding nonprofits or dedicate the money for a lot of other legitimate and very important public purposes. And so it's a policy decision as far as where you want to dedicate the funds.
Well, the shame is here too is the size of the city that we are. We don't have CDBG funds that we can give out to nonprofits in town. Where if we happen to be just, I don't know what's the population.
50,000.
Well, then we're a long ways off. But that's how a lot of other cities distribute their money. Block grant.
Community development block grant programs. Many cities have a process whereby they distribute funds to local nonprofits using those available funds, and we're not a direct entitlement city, and so we get our funds through Sacramento County. Sacramento County restricts our ability to use those funds to capital projects, so we can't use those funds for nonprofit funding. So our money does come out of our general fund.
Any other questions, comments? Councilman Singleton, comments?
Go ahead, Mayor.
I was just going to ask, is that water tower on whose property?
It's the city's property.
It is on city property. Okay, that was my question.
I was just wondering, why could we not distribute this equitably instead of one organization monopolizing on it until we do get funds coming available to the city, and then we can start dedicating more of those funds to, say, the Historical Society. But I'd like to see it more equitable as helping out a few more nonprofit organizations. And I think that's what you're doing by your proposal here.
This proposal doesn't say how the money is going to be spent. All it sets up is a process.
Right.
The council will need to decide how to allocate those funds. You could adopt this policy and still choose to give $10,000 a year to the Historical Society. Or you could adopt this policy and choose to give the money to 3 or 4 different agencies in different levels of contributions. Or you could choose not to adopt this policy and do what we've done historically, which is address things on a case-by-case basis, and as the requests come through, we would present those to the City Council for consideration. So there are several different options.
Anything else?
That was it for me.
Anybody else? City Attorney? you want to
Mayor,
say
before you entertain a motion, I just want to remind the council of the item that is on the agenda, and it's to adopt the resolution approving the proposed nonprofit funding policy. So you can adopt the policy, not adopt it, you can amend the policy, but I just wanted to clarify that the decision to give or not give to a particular group is not an item that's before you this evening.
Right. Okay, I wanted to make a comment. I like this proposal because, for one thing, it does set a process to give you time to really think about a project or how you're going to fund something. Oftentimes in the council, you are swayed by emotion, depending on how many people get up and talk or whatever. And I think this is a clean process. But I do have some questions, if I could ask about what is proposed. Okay, it says eligibility would be determined, and this is not a reflection on the city clerk, but by the city clerk. No? I thought it said that. Eligibility says on the resolution, let me read it. Applications for funding shall be submitted to the city clerk, who shall determine the eligibility of applicants.
I think that just means if they meet the minimum qualifications, so if they've been in existence for more than a year, all those types of things. If they're not, we won't even present it to council because they don't meet the policy. She's not going to make decisions about who's more worthy than the other one. It's just, hey, if they're not a 501c3, if they're not a local nonprofit, if they haven't been in existence for more than a year, then they just get thrown in the dumpster and we don't even bring them to council. That's all she's going to do.
So this, the rest of this application that asks questions, how do you propose to involve the community in the project?
All that gets submitted to the city council.
Okay.
And then you guys decide, review the proposals, and you say, okay, you read through here, and you decide which ones are merit an award by the city, and what amounts. And that'll be a decision that the council will have to make. That's not what we're deciding tonight. Once you receive the proposal, we'll put a staff report together. It'll list the groups that have submitted their proposals, and the amounts that they're requesting, and then it'll be up to the council to decide how to distribute the funds.
And I do want to say that filling out these grants is an easy piece of cake. I mean, you know, you think that about 100 people are going to apply for this, but when you see the questions that have to be written and the parameters that have to be followed, it's, you know, pretty specific.
And another question I have, funding will not be considered for ongoing operating expenses. How, okay, I'm just going to say, for example, the Historical Society, if they were to get the $10,000, would this be too restrictive to say that it's, I'm not sure what you mean by ongoing operating.
The Historical Society uses their money now for a very specific project. It's applied.
It's an ongoing project.
But it's not for ongoing operation. So it would be, if you had salary for staff, it would be for rent for your building, for utilities, for your just general, to keep your operation moving. That's not what we're funding. We're funding a specific project. They have to come forward and say, we want to use X amount of dollars to fund a children's, you know, program that will provide X, Y, Z, or we're going to provide this amount of money for the renovation, restoration of the McFarland Ranch Living History Center. And so that's a specific program or project. You can't just put an application in that says, we want you to fund our operation, and by the way, it's all going to our director's salary or rent or anything else. Yeah, they have to identify specifically what the money is going to be used for, and it can't just be for general operations.
Is that in here is that described pretty clearly in here?
I hope so.
Because if you just say operating expenses, that's pretty, to me, that's not very clear.
It does say that it has to be for a specific program or project.
Okay.
So they have to identify what that program or project would be.
Okay. Okay, those are the questions that I had. Is there any more discussion on this before I call for a motion? Okay. Okay, I'm ready to hear what the council wants to do here.
Okay, I move to approve the motion.
I'll second.
The recommended action is to adopt the resolution approving the proposed nonprofit funding policy, and that's your And we have a second from Councilman Singleton.
Yep.
Then I would call for the vote.
Okay, Vice Mayor Powers?
Aye.
Oh, wait a minute,
Comment, please?
sorry.
May I? Okay. Boy, you guys kind of surprised me. I didn't expect that. I know you've already got the first and the second, but I really wish you would have considered just leaving it the way it is now and then give the organization the opportunity to work on something. But that's my comment. So you already know what my vote's going to be. There's nothing I can say. Okay.
Okay, point of, if we can, since he asked the question, point of clarification would be, at this point, someone would have to apply, right? If this is passed?
If the policy is passed, then it would be immediately effective, and for any future grants, they'd have to go through this process.
And consideration could still be given to anyone that had already had it in the past or something, right?
I mean, basically, everybody would be on equal footing going forward, that they'd have to put in an application consistent with this policy.
Councilman Singleton. Shelton, I'm sorry.
Unless it was, the motion was revised, okay? So correct me if I'm wrong. If it was revised to allow the present group to receive the money or not. Because it doesn't really say one individual. I'm trying to word it some way. I don't know how to do it legally. So the present funding source goes to this organization. I don't know if I can do it legally.
Okay. Well, I think that what you, if I understand you correctly, Councilmember Shelton, what you're proposing is basically to amend the policy as proposed to exempt the Galt Historical Society from the process.
For this 1 year. I just want to know if either the first or the second would consider that made the motion.
Or are we saying we would want to postpone this taking action for a year? Say this would come in, go into effect next year?
Was that a better way to propose it?
Just, if that's what Councilmember Shelton is proposing, basically, is keep things in place for this year, have this new policy go into effect the following year.
Is that what you were after?
That's what I'm requesting. If you would, the two council members would consider revising.
Which would change the effective date.
Yeah.
I leave it up to,
Sorry, not me.
Well-
Puts me on the spot, doesn't it?
wait a minute, if the person making
Yeah.
the motion does
Right.
not agree, would you want the person seconding the motion?
Yeah,
to
the
have-
only, I mean, the way, it would have to be, if the maker of the motion does not want to change the motion, and we have the current motion on the floor, however, before the vote's called, somebody else can make a motion, a substitute motion. And if that substitute motion gets a second, then it rises to the top, and that would be the motion that you would vote on first.
Then that's my second.
Well, we could go on all night like that then.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
that's
we-
fine if
You
it
have to
gets
get
a
a
second.
second.
Then
So the motion is
My
to change
motion.
the effective date for
1 year.
1 year.
It gives the opportunity for that organization. I'm looking for a second.
That I'll second.
Okay, so
Still gotta
now the
follow through with it
motion
first.
is to, the motion as I understand it is to adopt the proposed policy with an effective date of 1 year from tonight. That's the motion that's now before the council for vote.
And if it
And-
passes, then that's done. If it fails, then the other motion
Then we go
is on
back.
the floor.
Right.
Okay. You've heard, I believe, everybody understands the motion on the floor. Are there any questions before I call for the vote on the substitute motion? Then I call for the vote.
Okay, on the substitute motion, Vice Mayor Powers? Councilmember Singleton?
No.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. So the substitute motion is passed, which accepts the resolution but does not become effective for 1 year.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
don't know what you were going to ask that question. Or what?
Okay.
Let me just make a clarification on that one. The group would still have to come back and officially request the funds as part of this year's budget, before the budget is adopted.
Right.
So that didn't approve the funding for the group. That just delayed the policy. So they still need to come back, submit a written request to the city for the funding for this upcoming year. And that would be considered as part of the budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Next item.
Best I could do.
Next item, Community Development Department Annual 2030 Galt General Plan and Housing Element Progress Report.
Oh, wait a minute. Did you skip
We
one?
missed one.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Skip one.
How about the 2012 Independence Day celebration? Sorry.
Stealing my spotlight, Liz.
She's been waiting patiently.
Mayor and City Council, before you, I'll be discussing our 2012 Independence Day celebration event. On July 2nd, 2011, the City of Galt held their first Independence Day celebration. The goal of the event was to provide an inexpensive, family-oriented, one-day celebration for the citizens of Galt. In that celebration, activities included a softball, horseshoe, and volleyball tournaments during the early part of the day. And during the late afternoon and early evening, we had a skateboard contest, kid zone, bingo, fireworks in the pool, food, and live entertainment. The Independence Day Celebration Committee feels that the 2011 activities were a good foundation to grow future celebrations on, and will include them in this year's activities. And we'll be adding an exhibition hall at the Cibola Community Center featuring quilts and baking contests. And we'll also be adding a petting zoo and storybook reading at the library. While changes could occur depending on availability of rental equipment and event registrations, we still promise to keep this a family-oriented event and inexpensive. This matter was brought before the Parks and Rec Commission last week. I was not able to include this in the staff report, but they recommended by a vote of 4-0 to recommend to council to approve this staff report. So what we are asking for you is to approve the attached event activities and budget transfer form in the amount of $12,230. Authorize staff to 1, implement a lottery system regarding local nonprofit participation should the interest exceed 3 nonprofits. 2, enter into a contract with the committee's choice of entertainment for the event. And 3, seek sponsorships for the event to help defray costs. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions? Anybody? I do. The item number 1, implement a lottery system regarding local nonprofit participation should the interest exceed 3 nonprofits. Does that mean you only want 3 nonprofits to participate in this event?
That is just for the food, but it will also pertain to our exhibition hall. We've set aside some areas for nonprofits to display some of their information. So if it exceeds that, it would apply to that also.
Why do you want to just keep it to 3? I'm thinking one of the main ideas was to give all the nonprofits a chance to earn some money, 1, and number 2, to advertise who they are, what they do.
We had 7 nonprofits participate last year, and none of them made any money. There was just too many there. So what we were going to do is limit them to 3, put them in a lottery system, kind of like the fireworks booth. So we would, if you were in this year, next year we would, probably pick somebody else, just to try and be fair. If we had 10 nonprofits trying to sell food, nobody would make any money.
And we're only, that part of the Veterans Field is only open from 5 to 9. So it's only 4 hours if it was an all-day event.
That's just for the food. We're not limiting the number of nonprofits in the exhibit hall, are we?
Well, we only have space for 8. The space is limited. We've counted out the spaces, and there's 8 spaces available. I don't know that there'll be more than 8
nonprofits.
For nonprofits.
Okay, so that would be still a lottery, but there'd be a lot more available.
Right.
You have 8 spots in the exhibit hall. Okay.
So you're not limiting it to 3?
Well, the spaces are limited. We only have 8 inside the Cibola Center, and we only have 3 available on Veterans Field, so we're limited to those numbers.
So you're limiting it to 8 in the Cibola Center and 3 on the field, is that what you're saying? And the 3 on the field is for food?
Yes.
Okay, what if somebody wants to have a booth to raise money, like dunk the city manager, for example?
Nobody wants that.
Where would they be? Are you not having those kinds of things? Pardon me?
We would not be having those type of activities.
You want to dunk me out?
Well, that was just an example of ways, you know, I'm thinking of the old-fashioned ways that we used to raise money and have fun dunking people.
Dunk the mayor sounds better.
So, you're not going to allow that kind of thing?
No, the Independence Day committee, which Vice Mayor Powers and Councilman Singleton are part of.
I know.
These are the events.
She's hitting me all the time.
These are the events that we've discussed and feel comfortable bringing forward to have as this part of this year's event.
And I
What
believe,
we're doing, okay.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, and I believe, was it not that part of this is due to budget and staffing availability, is that correct?
Pretty much. I mean, we only have so many staff that can be at different locations.
Right.
And we're adding stuff each year to see how it goes. Last year was, you know, our first year it was kind of small. This year we are adding like a petting zoo, and over at the Cibola Center, and in the daytime we've got volleyball and softball and horseshoes.
There you go.
The goal was to add 1 or 2
Every year.
events every year to grow from.
This is though a recommendation of staff and the Independence Day celebration, so certainly it's not final, and if the council wanted to change, modify, add, this is being presented to you for consideration and for approval. So this is the opportunity, if you had other ideas, suggestions, you wanted the committee to go back and look at doing different things, that's the reason we're bringing it to you this evening, is so you can provide that input and comment.
I'm not satisfied with limiting the number of nonprofits, especially now that we're cutting back on fireworks. And I'm understanding your idea that if you have too many people selling hot dogs or something, that they're going to make less money. But at least they have an opportunity, and I may want to have a booth and be dumped, or I may want to throw darts at a balloon or something like that for the little kids. It just seems too restricted to me.
Well, you know, the truth of the matter is we could open it up and you'd be surprised how many people have not. You know, we're each year trying to expand it. Last year we didn't have that many nonprofits volunteering. We only had one for the cooker people.
The bingo was a volunteer group.
Yeah, the Boy Scouts and.
Well, anyway, that's my comment, so I'm happy to listen to anybody else.
I'm agreeing with you, Mayor. My thinking is, you know, last year, you know, you guys got together and threw it together, and you did a good job. This year, you know, you give it a little more time, and then the information gets out there. Could be wrong, but I think you'll have more nonprofits, especially in what, you know, in lieu of what's going on. I mean, it's tough, and I think they would be interested in doing something. You can still control it, so you don't have, you know, 3 vendors selling hot dogs or something, you know.
Well, and the other thing, we hear all the time from the nonprofits, whether it's the Lions Club or the Rotary Club, that they are having a hard time getting members. So how would that fit into your plan, to give all of them an opportunity? I know we've got, what, 8 spots in the Cibola Center? Is that
Correct. They could set up a booth there and advertise their club, any type of event that they have coming up. They'll have the opportunity there.
Would there be room on the field for them to set up? There's not enough space in the Cibola, not for selling food, but just to advertise their...
Informational?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we could potentially open it up to other groups to have booths and things outside. You could limit the number of food vendors, because you don't, like you said, they're going to want to have it controlled, just like they want the fireworks booths controlled. You don't want to have 10 food vendors because nobody's going to make any money, so you want to control that. But as far as having informational booths, we could probably find space either in Cibola, and once that gets filled, then you can put them out in the field and let them set up out there.
Or just have fun. Maybe you're not planning to make a lot of money, but it's just an opportunity to be creative and have some fun.
Have kids
as well.
crafts or other things that they want to do.
Mhm. So anyway, again, that's my comments, and
It would give them the opportunity for recruitment and, retention of their organizations.
yeah, because we don't really have a problem, as far as I know, with too many people volunteering or wanting space. So I don't really see the need to be limiting it. Okay. Any other comments? If not, I would call for someone come up. Ms. Olson?
How do you decide about what kind or how many or if anybody's interested as a committee, as a nonprofit? Are the nonprofits all asked to have a representative at a meeting, and do they sit down together and say, hey, this is a great idea, we'll take this, or we'd like to do that? Do they do that? Do you know? Because I've never heard of anything like that, and the only way we heard was after it was all put in place, and we were told for this amount we could have a booth, and we didn't have that amount to give them, so we didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if they could have a meeting of representatives of the various nonprofits and groups that would like to be involved in this, or at least could give some suggestions or some ideas, because I'm hearing you. I think there's a lot of people who'd like to have the fun of doing it, but they're not really sure where to go, who to do, or who's planning. So maybe if they got involved in the planning, that might help, and you might get them to do more. I know it's hard to get volunteers to do. We all go through that. But maybe if each of the organizations were contacted and asked to bring one or two reps to a meeting, and then you talked about it, maybe something could happen. I'd sure like to see it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. But may I clarify something? We've never charged any nonprofits for any space during the Independence Day celebration.
Yeah.
There was no charge. There has not been a charge.
There may have been a charge in previous years with the
Mayor.
Galt Festival.
For someone coming.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have another
Okay.
citizen wishing to speak.
Excuse me. Cliff Lofton, I'm a resident of the city of Galt. And I just came from a meeting over at the center where they have the Historical Society, through the Alumni Association. And this was brought up about this meeting that you guys are talking about now. I know you've got a flag back here with the stars and stripes on it, and a lot of veterans, but yet they were all questioning, when did the city of Galt decide to celebrate our independence? Not even in the same month. Not even in the same month, on June the 30th. That is not Independence Day, and you're putting this on. Nowhere have any of you guys said that this was going to be on the 30th of June. They says, why in the world is Galt having our celebration for the flag up there, the red, white, and blue? They're way off base on June the 30th instead of the 4th of July. I mean, that was the question that was over there. We were deciding we were going to give $4,000 in scholarships for the Galt and for the Estrelita and stuff like that. But they was wondering how it got that far out of touch.
Well, I think,
That's the comment that I want to leave with.
Thank you.
I think Armando can explain it to you. If it's the 4th of July in the city of Galt, do you want to explain it?
Actually, council voted and approved June 30th. I believe it was in a meeting in November. Due to the 4th of July landing on a Wednesday, it would conflict with the market grounds. The market grounds is the only facility that the city owns that is large enough to hold the fireworks. We do not own property within the city that is safe to shoot fireworks from, other than the Galt market. And to close the market, I want to say we would lose over $30,000 in revenue to close the market for one day.
And this isn't the first year we've done it. Anytime that the 4th of July has fallen on a Tuesday, I think Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, it's always been on a different day other than the 4th of July.
And the reason we call it Independence Day is because it isn't always on the 4th of July, because we are a unique city that can't have it on the 4th of July if it's a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. And we picked June 30th so people would be able to come in on a Saturday, and then if they had other things that they had, a lot of people take the week off and go somewhere, celebrate it somewhere else, because in our city it's unique that we can't do it on the 4th of July every year.
We're not the only city that isn't doing it on the 4th of July. And talking to the contractor Pyro, other cities are doing it on the weekend just because it falls on a Wednesday.
Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand what the gentleman's saying, though.
Yeah.
Is there any other one in the audience that wants to make a comment on this? Okay. Would you read the recommended action, please?
Approve event activities and the budget transfer form in the amount of $12,230. Authorize staff to implement a lottery system regarding local nonprofit participation should the interest exceed 3 nonprofits. Enter into a contract with the Committee Choice of Entertainment for the event and seek sponsorship for the event to help defray costs.
Are we not going to amend that portion of dealing with the 3 nonprofits?
So up to the council.
That's
We can do that.
our discussion.
Are we talking about the 3 nonprofits for food out on the veterans
No.
field, or we're talking about the nonprofits?
Inside.
He said there's 8 inside. There's room
But
for
it's,
8,
but it's not written in that manner.
isn't it?
Can you summarize it for us again, Armando?
The intent was initially for the food, but at our last meeting, the 8 spots in the Shabola Center became open for nonprofits. So I assume since we're discussing nonprofits, we would put a lottery system in there. Of course, if we had 8, there would be no lottery system, but it would be at the city's discretion in the staff report, if you approve it, that we could go into a lottery system if it exceeds 8 in the Shabola Center.
So 11 total then. 3 for food.
3 for food, 8 in Shabola Center. Right. But we also could expand, the staff report allows you, the committee to expand any type of event.
Okay.
Should a nonprofit come forward and say, hey, we have a dunk tank, we'd like to sponsor something, it would be taken into consideration.
Okay.
So that's
I'm still concerned about the fact that, number one, we didn't get more, and I'm assuming we didn't get more input from the community. Who was on the committee besides the 2 council members and Armando, I think you were?
We put out there that we were looking for people to join us on the committee. We had to go out and pretty much physically grab people by the ear and bring them into the committee. Yes, yeah, we did. I think we found 4 others.
There are
4 or 5 others, I can't recall.
4 staff members, 3 citizens, and 2 council members.
The council's uncomfortable with putting a limit on the number of nonprofits except for the food. We don't have to put a limit on that. We can talk and just leave it to the committee to find a place for as many nonprofits as want to participate, and then talk to them about what type of activities, things that they would like to see happen. You can just leave that flexible. As long as I think it's important to set a limit on number of food vendors. Other than that, I think the committee can work on incorporating as many nonprofits as want to participate, and we have room for.
And if the part of that issue is logistically, if we can do it on the grounds, because I know sometimes we have power issues at times, and a lot of these vendors may need power. in which case they may have to bring their own car, because I don't know where we're gonna space more folks, other vendors or nonprofits.
Yeah, and I don't think we have to work on that tonight. I think if the
I
council's
think
direction
something we
is just
could
to
work.
make room for as many nonprofits as want to participate, then the committee can go back and solicit input from the nonprofits, find out what people want to do, and try to make room for everybody that wants to participate.
Another question, did I hear that they're only going to be allowed to be there from 5 to 9? From 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock? It's not like an all-day thing?
No, it's not an all-day event. On Veterans Field, from 5 to 9:30, fireworks are scheduled to start around 9:30.
But it doesn't start earlier in the day. In other words, it's just a...
That portion is, we have other events going on, starting at 10 o'clock at the sports complex, volleyball, horseshoe, and softball tournaments.
But the nonprofits should only be allowed from 5 to 9.
Correct.
Last year, I think it was a big issue that
Yeah.
we had people there earlier, and they were mad because they were sitting in the sun,
No one
and
showed
nobody
up
was
till
there.
after 5 o'clock.
Nobody started showing up until about 5 or 6 o'clock, and because everybody was out playing softball, they're not at the Veterans Field for any reason, and so it didn't make sense to have the group sit out there for hours on end when nobody was there. And so really the activity starts to happen at the Veterans Field later in the afternoon into the evening.
With the band and the fireworks.
Okay. I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept with the updated amendment. I think it was Mayor Payne that brought that up about if we can have more nonprofits logistically and fit that in, then the committee will work on that and see what we can do.
So you'd be eliminating the nonprofits, the 3 nonprofits, just leave that part
free
open?
for food is
3 for food for now. But if we get more than that, then we can take it into consideration if we can logistically place them on the Veterans Field.
So you just put the limit on the food, and there would be no other limits on nonprofits. It would just be a matter of dealing with the logistics of accommodating their needs.
If that's agreeable with council.
I sort of believe in free enterprise, and if we could have 4 or 5 people out there selling food that aren't competing with each other, and if they can make some money, whether they're selling root beer floats or whatever. So,
Well, it was the same problem we had with the fireworks, that we had how many people, and they made no money. And they were all complaining about that. The other problem is everybody needs, what do you call it? Electricity, and, you have to bring your own generators. It doesn't work with the band and everything there. It's just, and with those jump houses and everything. Look at that. So, we had, how many do we have last year?
It was close to 7 nonprofits. I believe the number was 7.
okay, Mr. Steele, you want to, you have to come up here, sorry.
The only comment I want to make is that with the food, I agree with that, because we do the Herald Day every year, and you can have too many food booths, and like I said, then people leave because they don't make any money, and they're talking down your event, and they leave, they're mad because they went through all that work, and they said, man, there was way too many of us, and nobody, there wasn't enough people, they didn't make money, and then they go home and complain about the event. You're better off, like he said, if you can have as many nonprofits you want, they can sign people up or do something fun, a game or something. But as far as food, you can't have too many food booths, and then it creates problems. So we've been doing it at Herald Day for a long time, and there has been years when there's way too many people out there.
And you do a good job out there. Okay, so are we back to the motion is just leaving it open, leaving the restriction in for food to 3 and leaving it open?
That, my motion would stand, yes.
Second.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Powers.
Aye.
Councilmember Singleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz.
Aye.
Mayor Payne.
Aye. So, motion is passed. Next item,
Okay, now, the annual 2030 Galt General Plan and Housing Element Progress Report for 2011.
Thank you. Can I get the switch? The switch?
Do a function F4. Try that. No function. The blue FN. I'll come down.
No, I'm annoyed about
Okay, I think we're live. I'm sticking with the theme of annual reports tonight. That seems to be pretty successful. This annual report on the general plan is required by the government code, but it's also a nice opportunity to refresh everybody's memory about the goals and policies of the general plan, and to make sure that it still says what you mean and it reflects your vision of where you want the city to go and what you want the city to look like going forward. This report is primarily required to address three overall themes: the status of each general plan amendment and any pending amendments to the general plan, the city's 2011 progress in implementing the various policies and programs of the general plan, and our progress in meeting our fair share of regional housing needs. The 2030 general plan was adopted on April 7th of 2009. It did not include the housing element. We still are under our old housing element. There's been no general plan amendment since. The housing element is out of date, but the city is making good progress on meeting the regional housing needs allocation for the current housing cycle. We're going to be discussing and bringing back the housing element update issue with City Council at a later meeting, probably in May, so I'm not going to go into it in a lot of detail tonight, but I can answer questions at the end if you have questions about that. Even though we are still working in the framework of the 2002 to 2007 housing element, we are about 90% done with the draft for the current cycle, which is 2006 to 2013. So I'm still able to report how we are progressing and meet our regional housing needs for this current cycle. This chart shows the target numbers that were assigned to Galt by the Sacramento Area Council of Governments. They represent Galt's fair share of the regional housing needs. These numbers do not represent homes that actually have to be constructed by the city or by a private developer. The city is only required to provide enough vacant land zoned appropriately to accommodate these units in these affordability categories. We also need to seek to remove or reduce governmental constraints to the production of these units. As you can see, Galt is responsible for providing adequate sites to accommodate a total of 635 units allocated in the income categories shown. Extremely low income is less than 30% of the area median. Very low is 30 to 50. Low income is considered 50 to 80% of median. Moderate is 80 to 120, and above moderate is over 120. As you can see, there are a large number in the above moderate income. That's because Galt already has a disproportionate number of households in the lower income categories. So FACOG recognizes that that was the case in the decennial census, and they allocate less of those units to Galt and more of the above moderate. But we are still obligated to provide adequate sites for the lower income units. This table, it's a little hard to read. It shows how many units the city has approved in each of the income categories over the term of the current housing element cycle, which is again 2006 to 2013. And this just shows up to date. As you can see, we have already actually exceeded the above moderate incomes by 7 units that we were allocated. Amazingly, we have made really good progress in all of the lower income categories as well, particularly given the economic recession that's been taking place since about 2007. We have a number of deed restricted low income units. Galt Place in 2010 has provided a number of units in the extreme low, the very low, and the low income categories. So that was a good project for the city. The annual report also discusses activities of the Galt Redevelopment Agency that took place in 2011. This is just sort of a listing of those. We finished preliminary design and public input on the Central Galt Corridor project, the railroad property site improvements, parking lot, and transit stop, and Galt Place Senior Mixed Use project was completed. We also did CEQA for the Simmerhorn commercial property, did a retail recruitment strategy for the Buxton, initiated property acquisition in Old Town, and Spawn's Bakery completed their building facade except for the paint trim. The annual report also lists a lot of the just general city accomplishments in 2011. I've highlighted a few of those here. The biggest one of which is we got a $2 million SACOG grant for the Central Galt Corridor Improvement Project. We also got an energy efficiency community block grant to retrofit a number of street lights with LED lights. The community's probably seen those around town. It's a very clean white light now. We oversaw construction and interconnection of the wastewater treatment plant solar project. So solar is now running most of the wastewater treatment plant. Completed the railroad quiet zone study. Did a lot of the work on the Central Galt interchange. Completed the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project. Design work and CEQA compliance for the Twin Cities roundabouts. Completed phase 1 of Walker Park. Initiated online registration for recreation classes and programs. Adjusted the sports complex rent to encourage two-day tournaments. The police department implemented a TIP 411 program to dispense information to the public and updated their emergency operations program. Completed the youth master plan, implemented a citywide job shadowing program, employee recognition program, and probably the one that most people are excited about, completed CEQA compliance for a Walmart project and settled the litigation. The annual report also discusses the status of each housing element implementation program. That's set forth in Table 10 of the document. The status of all the remaining general plan elements is included as Appendix A. Lists basically the implementation program and then talks about what was done in 2011 to further that program. The whole report for the public is on the city's website. If you go to the planning department, and on the left side there's a general plan tab, and then it's shown there in the box highlighted. The Galt Planning Commission considered the annual report at its meeting in March and unanimously recommended acceptance. And staff recommends that City Council do the same. We will then forward this annual report to the Governor's Office of Planning Research and to the State Housing and Community Development Department. The staff report indicates there were 2 minor typos in the report that we corrected with the Planning Commission, so their recommendation does include those corrections. That concludes my report.
Any questions? No, good report. Comments? Okay, let's see, was this just an information? Or do we need to vote on this?
You do need to vote. The recommendation in the staff report. You review, provide an opportunity for public comment that is required. Consider the Planning Commission's recommendation, direct us to make any needed modifications, and then by motion accept the report with the 2 corrections noted.
Okay. Do we need to have like a public hearing or just ask for?
It's not a public hearing, it's just if anybody wants to provide a comment.
Are there any questions or comments on this report on housing? None at all? Okay. So, but we do need to have a motion to accept
Yes,
this.
ma'am.
Recommend approval as submitted for, do I need to have them read off, Steve? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just for the record, should we? I'm just asking.
think you just can do a motion to accept the report with the 2 corrections noted by the Planning Commission.
All right, thank you. And I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Powers? Aye. Councilmember Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye, motion passed unanimously, and thank you to Sandy for putting this together. It was pretty thick. There was a lot to look at, so I know you did a lot of work on it. Okay, next item is, we have no communications, no written communications.
We don't need to adjourn.
We don't need to adjourn to redevelopment or any of those things.
Sorry.
Okay, City Clerk, do you have a report?
I do, just have a few reminders. The Commission on Aging will meet March 22nd at 5:15 in the California Room at the Parks and Rec Department. On March 26th, there will be a public safety meeting at 6 p.m. in the Police Community Room. City Hall offices will be closed on March 31st. On April 2nd, there's a Youth Committee meeting at 6:30 in the City Hall Community Room. Just a reminder of and I think these will be talked about, the extravaganza on April 7th and the bike rodeo on May 12th. One more thing. I mentioned this at the last meeting and wanted to reiterate, I can't find my notes. We do have some vacancies on most of our committees right now. Beautification Committee, we have a number of vacancies. Public Safety Committee, we have 1 vacancy. Commission on Aging, it looks like we have a vacancy coming up. On our Measure R Committee, the terms are due, so we're asking for any letter of interest for anybody that is interested. You can contact the City Clerk's office to get information on all of our committees, and we welcome anybody to apply.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Comments by staff? Nothing?
I don't think we have any.
Nothing? Comments by council? I'll start with Vice Mayor Powers. Councilman Singleton?
Of course. The long meeting tonight, but it was a good meeting. I'd like to, going back to the, I call it panhandling, but the, well, it's kind of to do with the clients that live in the houses that occupy those clients in the halfway houses, to have staff bring back some way possibly that we could, and this would be for the safety committee too, Councilman Shelton possibly could discuss also reimbursement to the city or to PD, because our PD does a lot of transporting these people that are out and about bothering folks, especially late at night, back to the, I guess they call them the halfway houses, I'm not sure what the proper name is. Care homes, whatever they are. Group homes.
Group homes.
And that takes one of our officers off the street when he could be doing other protections that he's supposed to be doing out of our, because they're out of our SOI area. So I'd like to be able to bring that back and possibly safety committee take a look at that also. Come up with some ways to get reimbursement for that. Because if there was an ambulance service, they would certainly be charged. We're not an ambulance service.
That would be for group homes that are located outside of...
Outside of our sphere, yeah.
And do we have some inside?
No, they do not have curfews. I've had an incident just a couple weeks ago at Denny's where 2 gentlemen were cornered, a young couple in their booth, and I had to get up and try to protect them and call PD and have them removed from Denny's. So it's just something we could look at. That's all I have. Thank you.
And Jason, I'd be willing to sit down with you if you'd like. Maybe give some recommendations.
Sure.
Anything else, Councilman Shelton? Any comments for tonight?
Oh, it was a good meeting. I appreciate the conversations, and I just hope everyone has a glorious and great week.
Glad to see you back healthy,
Yeah,
by
you
the
can
way.
tell I'm back.
Councilman Cruz.
Well, gee, city clerk stole my thunder.
That's okay. You can roar on.
Just a little reminder, Saturday, April 7th is the extravaganza. Those of you who don't know,
Here, go ahead, talk, I'll hold it up for you.
Thank you, Anna. The actual event, if you're interested, there's going to be a pancake breakfast at the Grange Hall at 8 o'clock. And from that point, 9 o'clock will be sign up for a parade. And I believe the actual event starts at 10. There's going to be plenty of fun, food. From what I understand, the Easter Bunny's going to be there, and we're still trying to work on a chicken of some sort.
That was going to be you.
Yeah. But please come on out and have a great time.
Very good.
I would just add to that the parade is Easter bonnets. So any of you ladies that have nice big hats that you want to decorate, and it's just a walking parade down 4th Street. It's not huge. They're also adding the famous egg drop this year. That's a new thing. And of course we'll have the old car show, or the car show.
And Easter basket race.
And Easter basket race. Okay. Then I would just report that I did attend the monthly meeting of SACOG. We've been talking about RENA for a long time, and they're looking at 20 units to the acre, which is going to be a struggle. Let's see what else. The city manager and myself have visited several of the industries in town. Cardinal Glass, Consolidated Fabricators, 2 locations, Bonds, I don't know, a couple more. Let me think, I better not leave anybody out. Galt Pipe, anybody else? Oh, D Carson. And you know, in talking to them, it was really interesting learning about their business and the history. And it goes from like Galt Pipe that was started by this father some years ago, and they still have some of the original equipment that they're using, in comparison to Cardinal Glass that is highly automated, and the warehouse is what, a quarter of a mile long? Huge. Yeah, so not only did we hopefully make friends, but we got a little education. It was very interesting. Want you to start thinking about May is Bike Month, which is a program of SACOG, and we want to partner with SACOG because they've been so good to us with a $2 million grant. They're going to be funding $700 to the elementary school for promoting May as Bike Month. They also will be helping the city to promote it. We hope to have, again, our new Galt Sacramento Express bus on display for everyone to come out and see. One of the main reasons we want to do this, besides being a good partner with SACOG, is we want to emphasize safety on bicycle riding. We'll be giving away helmets, but we also want the adults who are riding their bikes around town to be aware of the rules and regulations. We're counting on our police department to help us out with that. But also it's going to help if we can get people out of their cars and on their bikes, there'll be less pollution, which will make the Air Quality Board happy, which I will be meeting with them on Thursday, telling them what good work we're doing down here in Galt. And I think all this is going to help us lay some groundwork for future grants. If we have these programs for bikes and things, then we're eligible for grants. So it's a good thing that we're doing. I think the city and the council is doing a good thing. And with that, if there's no other comments, I will adjourn.